We just started a walk down the street from the hostel, and so I looked around and I got a feeling there's a Starbucks near here, which is the most logical place that I would go, and that's the problem. I can't go there because that's the most logical place I would go. So it would be guaranteed to be booby traps. Oh, that's the message. A yellow car, a yellow taxi, by the way. I've noticed that trick starting around Regina period. They picked up on this thing of having yellow taxi cabs in every city I go into, every single one now. And so that's a big dig against New York, of course, your hometown. They hate New York City. I've been trying to put this video together, and maybe this is the exact moment. Everything has its optimal point in time with this beautiful tree behind me. There's two things that are outstanding that need to be said to you. One is Vancouver is pure hell. It's just pure evil here. It's just beyond redemption. I was sitting down in Gastown a couple of days ago one morning, and it came to me that the big one that everybody talks about for the West Coast. I'm not saying you guys. I don't know what's going to happen for you. All I know is for here. If you look at the mountains, the next day after I wanted to film this, I had no electricity at night. They do that game every night. So I woke up and I wasn't able to film this at the time, and it's been delayed. But when I was sitting, if you look at the topography of this region, sitting from Gastown or anywhere downtown, you've got the mountain ranges and you've got teeny tiny Vancouver underneath it. The water that's going to come in here is going to be as high as those mountain ranges, and this whole entire region is just going to be swept out to sea. There will be nothing left of it. There will be no life left here at all. It will be like Noah days. No one will survive this. When the water comes in, it will be so gigantic that nothing will survive. It will just be sweeping this whole place clean. That's what God's plan is for the evil that exists here in Vancouver. The second thing is more positive, and that has to do with your hometown, New York City, and America. And I started thinking when I was sitting down in Gastown, and I was thinking about Whitehorse, where I just came from, and I was thinking about New York, and it was coming to me, my thoughts, and it led me to this point where New York City is unique among the whole world, and I've said to you that New York is a very special place, and I've fallen in love with it since I was a child. It's just been my one city in the whole world that I ultimately love the most, and now I see why. I want to tell you, if you look at when I was in Whitehorse, the water that goes through the Yukon River there is just divine. It's spectacular. I can't say it. God is there, and I've spoken with him, and I started thinking about fast-flowing water through canyon, which is what I call the Yukon River there, and I started thinking, it's a canyon, and I look at New York. What's happening here is that there are many similarities with New York. It's a city of concrete canyons, and if you look at how the grid of New York is set up, it's run avenues north-south. In Whitehorse, the canyon is set up so God's breath flows through it, and you can see it and feel it there. You don't have to be religious in any way. You could just feel energy there. It's impossible. The First Nations people felt this as well. They were exterminated. One reason, this is an aside, there are multiple ways for their evil to come out. They were exterminated because of their communication with God. The evil in the world, the Antichrist knows this, so he wanted them gone. He wants America gone because of its association with Jesus Christ. You're an obvious target. You must be gone. He wants me gone for the same reason. We're all in the same boat. The First Nations people can communicate with God. They saw God's breath going through the canyon, just like I did. In New York City, you need to know this. With 9/11, there's a lot of layers around that thing, but there's one layer here. The canyons of New York City allow God's breath to flow. He has covered both coasts. He's covered the West Coast in Canada, and he's covered the East Coast in New York City. God's presence is in both cities. I will say to you that because of America's devotion to Jesus Christ and because of its acceptance of God into its thinking and its social values and its philosophy, God has rewarded you. Jesus has rewarded you with the gift of New York City. The life of New York, the world's best minds always congregate in New York. New York always is a thriving, intellectual, highly cerebral place. It is the manifestation of the uppermost level of God. It's the most creative, the most innovative. It's just got an energy that you can't find anywhere else in the world. God gave you, America. New York City is a gift for your devotion to Him. This is His rewarding of you. He will do the same thing in the future for you. The canyons of Wall Street, what happened in 9/11, the breath of Jesus, of God, comes down from the north and flows down the canyons of Whitehorse on the west coast and the canyons of New York City on the east. They stop. If you look at the grid of New York City, it stops, and you've got the old New York there, which I believe the Dutch owned. I'm not sure of all of the history, but the Dutch owned this place, and then you started your grid system. The breath of God stops at Wall Street. They chose 9/11. They chose 9/11 as the date, 9 of course and 11, the numbers. But then besides that, they chose to strike Jesus Christ in America at His heart. And they chose to strike in Whitehorse. They made it a gas chamber and a bloodbath and a cloning facility for humans. What these people have done with both canyon cities, one very nature exposed or driven, one very human and concrete and steel driven, but God rests in both. And they don't want you to see that. But 9/11 was done for the sole purpose of striking at the heart of Jesus, which is in New York City, His gift to the world and to America in particular, but right at the financial centers where the canyons stop flowing. It's something that you need to be aware that 9/11 was done not just to America and to New York. Of course, there's so many things to this, but 9/11 has this deep moral imperative to it that you must know and you must see in contrast with what happened in Whitehorse, another canyon city that is the center of God on the planet, and they have struck at both violently. So that's how this came about. I was going to send you a message specifically about this, but today was the day when it needed to come out against this beautiful backdrop. But I'm going to have to find a place to go and sit down and just relax for a bit and have a coffee and upload these. So you need to know that this is a holy war for sure. We are all in it. And I'm paying a significant price because I am really being murdered here. This is clear murder here. This is just beyond question what is being done, and it's being done because of my acceptance of Christ, and America is being destroyed because of the same reason. 9/11 was purely religiously motivated to strike at the heart of Christ at Wall Street, where the canyons end. America needs to know that.